Hello everyone, I'm Matt Knickerbocker and you're watching Bethel Today. My guest tonight is Rich Straighten, who is of course running for the position of selectman and for the town of Bethel this coming fall on November 3rd. And we're going to use a little bit of a different format tonight, something we've never done. I, as you know, am running for first selectman, so technically I'm interviewing Rich, but we're going to be kind of interviewing each other and discussing some of the issues that affect Bethel and some of the things that we've learned so far in our campaign, going door to door and speaking with you, our neighbors and friends in the town of Bethel. So let's get started. Rich, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matt.
Now you can say welcome to the show.
Matt, welcome to the show.
Great, yeah, we're going to co-host the show today.
Great.
Let's start with some of the issues. You know, one of the big things that we hear about when we're going door to door is taxes. Now, curiously, that's not the #1 issue that I've heard so far, but of course it's on people's mind. The economy is tough. What are your thoughts on the direction that the town needs to go in?
Well, we need to try to expand our economic development so we could hopefully lower our taxes, give the taxpayers, the residents, a break on their taxes. That if we could expand our commercial and industrial taxes base, that will lower the residential base. Mm-hmm. So that'll go a long ways, you know. And we're hearing that knocking on doors. People always complain a little bit about taxes, but you know, there's a bill for services and they have to be paid, and that's where the tax revenue comes in to pay the bills. So
right.
You know, it's something that has to happen, but we want to try to ease it the most we can.
Right. Well, you touched on a very important part of the discussion, and that is that you and I have an initiative in place. One of our stated goals in our campaign is to aggressively market the town of Bethel to small businesses, to the right kind of businesses that we would like to bring into the town of Bethel, and not only bring jobs to the town, but also bring more revenue from the business side of the community, which then, as you point out, will help keep property taxes for homeowners at the lowest level they can possibly be. Because we can't continue to not take care of the town. I mean, everybody knows that, but at the same time, we have people in town who simply cannot afford another penny's worth of tax in the next year or two. It's just too tough a time.
Well, the right businesses that don't burden the town services, right, are ideal, and that. Again, you're not burdening other departments for funds, and then those people are taxed depending on what kind of business is. Some businesses are also taxed on personal property that offices that they might have in their offices. So there's extra income there. So again, the right type of business where it doesn't add to the burden of the services that the town provides is excellent.
Now, there were some comments that I heard in some particular districts, and by districts, just for our viewers, you may not be aware of it, but the town is divided into several voting districts, and it's really remarkable about how each district has its own kind of culture and concerns, and you see some common threads running through the folks that live in the particular districts. So I want to touch for a moment on District 4. And that, generally speaking, is the area, the part of Bethel that's on the western side of the town, say to the west of Grassy Plain Street, which is Route 53. So the area north and south of Reservoir Street, the Bethpage neighborhood, Fairchild, and running all the way down Route 53 to the Reading town line. Now, this was an area where we heard the most concern so far about taxes, and I was a little puzzled by it at first, but then one of the neighbors that I was speaking to brought out his tax bills and showed me, and his taxes had literally tripled in a 10-year period. So I did some research on that, and I wanted to explain to people how that worked. The taxes did not triple because the town is spending more money. It was due to the rapid rise in property values and the reassessments of property values that occur by law in the state of Connecticut every 5 years. And it's a little bit of a complicated issue, but just to try to explain it as simply as possible, the purpose of revaluing property is not to get more money out of your pocket. it's simply to have an accurate value of your property listed on the property rolls in the town of Bethel on the grand list. So in theory, the way it should work is, let's say from one valuation year to 5 years later to the next, if all property in the town of Bethel were to increase in value by 10%, just to pull out a number, then the tax rate would be lowered by the certain amount of percentage points so that the amount of tax you pay stays the same. So there's supposed to be no change in your taxes. But what happens in real life is that some types of property go up in value faster than others. And sometimes sometimes they even go down. So the effect of that is to shift the burden, unfairly in some cases, from some people to other people. So I often hear people say, well, if my taxes went up so much, what's the town doing with all that extra money? And the fact is the town isn't really getting any extra money. The fact is you just got stuck with more of a tax bill than somebody down the street. And that's a problem with how property tax valuations occur. But as a selectman team, we would like to try to look for ways to mitigate that is consistent with state law, whether it's phasing in the new assessments, try to find some way to take the burden of these rapid changes off your back and try to make that a little bit easier to handle. It's a complicated issue, but we're dedicated to study it and see what we can do about that.
I'd just like to add to that. That section of town is a bit older section in town. A lot of that development was done in the 50s, early 50s, and the rate of their valuation probably didn't catch up with some of the newer developments. And then when the companies come in to revalue, that's why they were hit a bit more than some of the other areas. So being an older section and the value of their houses had gone up, and they were catching up to the other prices in town. So. Well,
that's a good point, Rich, and that brings up another reason why the tax base changed so rapidly within that neighborhood. Those are homes that are very desirable to people who are buying their first homes. And of course we've been hearing for the past couple of years about the so-called housing bubble and the subprime mortgages and all this stuff. Now what does that have to do with it, you might ask? What that did was it increased the demand for homes within a certain price range and escalated that demand so fast that from the 2002 to 2007 reassessment period, those homes escalated in price by about 70%. Yeah. And then, of course, the folks that live there now are saying correctly, well, my home isn't worth that much anymore, so when can I get some relief? And I've been looking into that. And unfortunately, the state does not allow, there's no provision for any kind of a faster reassessment, so the next go-around will be 2012. But that whole housing bubble, even though, the people there can rightfully say, well, I didn't have a subprime mortgage and I didn't have anything to do with that. The whole national scene with the subprime mortgages caused an escalation in demand, and that caused prices to go way, way up. So really large, expensive homes didn't go up as much. So that's why you saw that tax burden shift into those homes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Let's talk a little bit about the maintenance of town buildings. Now, you've been on, I forget, how many building committees?
Quite a few buildings committees over the years, schools, municipal buildings.
I think you've had a hand in putting up every building in town since about 1965, if I remember.
Not every building, but quite a few. And building is a pet thing of mine. I like to follow through on. Once a building starts to decay a little bit, it costs more and more to fix them up. So if we can get a handle on all our buildings, the town has spent quite a bit of money on the school buildings recently to get them up to meet current codes and to be a more delight to have educated people go into and learn. So that I would like to reinstitute building committee that looks over all the buildings, not just when the selectman asks a committee to look at one particular building. I'm familiar with the old permanent building committee, and we were in charge of all the buildings in town, and we had a responsibility to the selectman's office to make a report on the conditions of all the buildings in town, not just the school buildings, but the firehouses, park and rec buildings, the town hall, the library. So we had that responsibility, and I'd like to see that commission come back, or another committee formed to overlook all the buildings in town, so we can have a good handle on the maintenance of the buildings, so we know what would be coming up, if there was any major problems. A few years ago, we did a major roof problem, re-roofing on all the school buildings. We need to look at our other buildings. And have just like we do it in your own home. You know, we'll fix the roof today, or we'll do the kitchen tomorrow. Well,
so you're talking about
just a larger scale for municipal,
right?
Because they're so big.
So you're talking about creating a long-term plan and a regular inspection procedure, and a body of people who are responsible for doing that, right?
Right.
So when you were a member of the permanent building committee, which has been many years ago disbanded and replaced by something else.
Well, they went to ad hoc building committee, that a committee was just responsible for one building.
So the ad hoc process, just so our viewers understand, is when there is one particular project, like the renovation of the high school, there is a committee that's formed just for that purpose.
Correct.
And then when it's done, they're released.
Dissolved.
So like being on a jury, then they get to go home. And,
Right.
So your plan then is to create an actual building commission of some kind that regularly inspects and puts together long-term plans to maintain the proper condition of those buildings over the long haul, right?
Right. We have a public works department that does a great job. We have a town engineer. We have an assistant engineer. But they're day-to-day. They have a lot of things on their plate, and I think the commission could help them out, relieve them of some of their duties. It could work in conjunction with them. It's something that I'd like to work with you informing and to get on the ball with that and keep all the buildings up to snuff.
Right. Yeah, because it does cost a lot more money to fix things once they start to go to. And to your point, you were mentioning there were several roofs, I think, that had to be replaced going back about 10 years ago with the school buildings because they had really gotten in bad shape.
Right.
So rather than let them get in bad shape and then fix them, it's more efficient and less costly to keep them in good shape.
And to stagger them. If you're fixing one every couple of years, it's not so bad as where if you have to fix 5 major roofs all in 1 year. That's a big money item.
Yes. Let's talk about some of the issues that we're seeing in District 2. And District 2, of course, is that area, Stony Hill area, up to Route 6. And there are some real concerns up there about the condition of the roads.
Well, they're currently under a sewer project up there, and the roads are being repaired after the sewer lines are installed. And it takes a while for the roads to settle, and in the meantime, the roads go up and down, and through the winter, they need to settle at least a year before they can be repaved. But you have walked up there quite a bit, and people would just like to know when their road is going to get done. So we've talked about making a master plan and letting people know that this year your road will be done. Another year, these other roads will be done. So, the public will know when their road will be done. And it's not, just, we're going to pick this road or that road, and we're going to put a road program together. And then we can't forget the rest of the town, and not just District 2 or Stony Hill for road repairs. There's many other roads in town that need to be fixed also.
Oh, isn't it true that many years ago the town used to have a 10-year plan where they would kind of know that going so many years out that they'd plan for addressing certain areas?
Yeah, there was a 10-year road plan, but it was always 15 years behind. So And things come up that, sometimes they have to jump the schedule, but and it relates to the budget. If there's money in the budget to do roads, they do roads, and unfortunately, that's one of the first things that get cuts in budget crunches is the road program. And people really travel the roads, and they say, why aren't the roads done? Well, there's other things we have to also fund in the meantime. So we're hoping to put this schedule together so people actually know when their road's going to be done.
And one thing I would like to do is to post that on the website too, and as well as, and I'm kind of jumping ahead on another topic, but I would like to start an electronic newsletter that residents can opt into if they choose, where they can get regular updates via email, via a town newsletter that's sent electronically. It would cost nothing to do that. And then we could keep them updated and let them know when to expect certain things to occur. And I think that that's a method of communication that is, it's an opportunity to really let you know what's going on in your town. When we talk about the road situation, there are a lot of different stories out there. Some folks thought that the roads should have had final paving after the sewers were done. And there's another story that not all the roads were even supposed to be repaved after the sewers were done, and that it just wasn't done well enough, and that's why they're so bumpy. I guess the reason why doesn't really matter. We just need to put together a plan to give those people some relief within whatever budget we can come up with, and with using whatever state and federal funds are available. And there are some grants coming in now. There's a little bit of construction that's underway right now, but there's certainly a lot more that needs to be done.
Well, that's a key issue. We want to look for any grants, state, federal money that we can get in to help with these projects. Not only road projects, but other projects, fixing our buildings and whatever money's out there available that we'd like to have.
Right. Well, yeah, and of course, this is a little bit of a touchy subject, but there was that incident in the past year and a half where one of our state representatives had worked very hard to bring Bethel money, and our current administration didn't want to take advantage of it. And that led to some very ugly press. I want our viewers to know that Rich and I will take advantage and work with our state officials to the greatest degree that we possibly can. We'll work cooperatively, not only with our state and federal officials, but with our neighboring towns to find savings and regionalize whatever we can. Let's say the purchase of supplies, the purchase of asphalt, whatever can be done to bring down your bill is something that we think is an important project for us to do.
I agree with you, Matt. I'm just going to bring that up. Working with our legislatures, no matter what their party affiliation is very meaningful to the town. If there's something available that the town can get, we should be entitled to it, and we should be able to get it.
Right.
So.
Now that brings up another topic in terms of regional cooperation. And this gets into a little bit of complication as well, but some people may remember that for a couple years ago that Bethel was beginning to work with HEVCO, which is it stands for the Housatonic Valley Organization of Elected Officials. I probably put those words out of order, but it's a association of the leadership of the towns in this area. And one of the things that they were doing was trying to find a way to regionalize the trash disposal system to make that more efficient and less complicated and cheaper for all of the participating towns. So they've been working toward a regional solution to that. And of course, the Bethel transfer station has been a struggle to operate on a break-even. I don't think it has operated on a break-even for some time, although I don't exactly know how much money it costs to run it at this point. But it's an issue where we're trying to build some more efficiency there and bring the cost to the town down. Well, we recently found out that our current administration has a study in place, and there are proposals in place to privatize the Bethel transfer station, which would mean to sell it to a private concern. And that is something that I think that all Bethel residents should be extremely concerned about. Did you want to touch on that too?
Sure. When you privatize transfer station like that, you're subject to a lot of things coming in by truck. There's a situation down there on Route 53 where there's a low bridge for trucks to get in and out of there. You know, they say they would have a handle on what's being brought in, but when you're receiving trash or construction debris from projects, you really don't know what's in that. So, you know, we've talked, and we're really not in favor of supporting that issue. We don't want the truck traffic coming through our town. We don't want the possibility of hazardous materials being, you know, blown in the air, or dumped on the transfer area. Then we have to look at, you know, how are they going to get the materials out? You know, there was talk about doing it by rail. So then a rail spur would have to be built over there. But then you're still shipping the stuff out of town. So, you know, I don't think it's a good thing for the town. We would lose control over it. We just did a little campaigning down there on this past Saturday, and it was very interesting, the amount of people that come into the transfer station to bring their own trash. I saw lawyers, doctors, financial people. It was very interesting, and you know, people have referred to it as the mom and pop type of transfer station. So yes, maybe we could make some money, but I think that we would be getting into more headaches than it would be worth.
Right.
And I really would not like to see it happen.
Well, just to put some numbers to the points that you just made, our transfer station is currently designed to handle up to 50 tons per day, which seems like an enormous amount of trash, but that's, you know, that's the statistic. It's designed to handle 50 tons per day. The proposal to privatize would move that number from 50 tons per day to 450 tons per day. And to your point, once the legal responsibility for operation goes to a private company, the town of Bethel would no longer be able to say, well, you can't bring in this type of a material. And the proposal specifically would allow construction and demolition debris, which, as you might recall, about 10 or 12 years ago, there was that awful situation with the Danbury transfer, the dump, basically, accepting construction debris, and it rotted and made that sulfur dioxide, that rotten egg smell that you guys everybody made in chemistry class just to gross everybody out. But that blanketed the entire Stony Hill area and caused a class action lawsuit. So I'm with you. Even though the town could potentially make some money on it, it's a quality of life issue that I don't think is worth any price whatsoever. I do not want to see Bethel become the trash capital of Western Connecticut, and I think our best course of action is to go back to the HEFCO plan and cooperate with the regional authorities and find a way to at least break even with our transfer station, if not make a modest profit. We have a couple of minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about the Terre Haute issue, because that's still open for debate. And just to let our viewers know, the Terre Haute property exists on the southwestern side of Bethel, extending up from the Francis Clark Industrial Park, and then there's actually a big chunk of it that is in the city of Danbury, even though Bethel owns it. Go ahead.
Well, you know, we've been talking about strategizing on this issue also. You know, we would like to see the land preserved for recreational use, but also there's been money talked about from the state that the state would give to Danbury to buy that property. That property is actually in the city of Danbury. Bethel owns it, but it's actually in Danbury. So if we were to sell that property to the Danbury, they would have to put restrictions on it. I mean, we would you know, look at all this prior to any negotiations with them. That would still be set aside for trails, hiking, camping, or whatever they might have out there. Would become part of the Ives Trail, I believe.
Yes, that trail would go through the property.
So, you know, we would gain some funds from that, the sale of it. We could improve our side of the trails by making a parking area and developing some of those trails up in there. So it would be beneficial to, we have a lot of people that like to hike and walk and bicycle, and although you would need a mountain bike for in that area.
Yeah, it's kind of rugged back there, isn't it?
So I think you had some other ideas on that too, Matt.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I am very much in favor of studying the sale of that piece of Terre Haute that exists in Danbury, as long as, and these are big caveats, as long as it is permanently deed restricted and can never be used for anything except the Ives Trail or open space. Basically, undeveloped natural land. That's the whole point of smart growth. Number two, it has to be a fair price for Bethel. The property was assessed not assessed, but studied in 2002, so that would have to be updated so we see what the property value is. But as long as it is a fair price for Bethel, then I think that Bethel can win, our residents can win, the property can be used for recreation, as well as when the state changes their zoning, there are still 4 or 5, possibly 6 parcels in Francis Clark Park that could still be developed for commercial use that would have no impact whatsoever on the Terre Haute. But when the budget is in such dire straits and we need money for our own infrastructure, even if to buy more open space and protect from overdevelopment, that's a critical piece of property that's valuable that could work for us. Right now it's not doing anything for us, and it could do a better job.
And it would be good for our neighbors. Recently, the town wanted to put a water tank up in that area in Danbury, and actually Danbury turned us down. So, you know, if we had a good relationship with Danbury, things might be a little bit better.
Well, Rich, our time is up, so we could go on for another hour. We'll probably do it again some other time. So thank you very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. You've been watching Bethel Today. I'm Matt Knickerbocker. We are sponsored by the Bethel Democratic Town Committee. Thanks for watching.